No, in the distance. This is a nice plant fort. It's a memorial. It's the eternal remembrance of the victims of fascism, Nazism, and anti-Semitism.
These are the trenches.
These are the trenches.
Let's come all together there. Long prefaces, I will tell you that it is one of these fortresses, 9 fortresses around the city, that were built by the Russian Tsarist government to strengthen Kovno city. Because Kovno, it is close to German border, close to Eastern Prussia, and so they were already expecting that the enemy will come from the Germany, and they sought to strengthen the city by this fortress. This didn't help in the first place. After the war, when we came to the independent republic, they made here this fortress just to make money, a reason for tourism. So, for 20 years, from the other side, and between them a guard was walking, standing, and so on. So you see that it was built as a real fortification, and you could see from the distance that all these fortresses. Here, the area of Kovna is more hilly than in the rest of Lithuania, and they use the landscape, and these forts, they were built in the hills, into the hills. See, you can see there, you see the grass there, yeah, and you see a stick beton, yeah, a stick arbeit made here, and you see how thick are the walls, and you see Harachei Yeri, how do you say, the shooting windows, in what direction, to the west, where they expect the enemy coming, and so on. You see, this was a real fortress. So, Miftsar, exactly. So, when the Nazis occupy Kovna, they see that this is an ideal place for their crimes. First, it is outside the city. The second, it is a lonely place. And the third, the Jewish ghetto is only 2 miles from here. Okay, so they could even march the people straight here to the shooting place. And so they did. And actually all the actions start at the very beginning of the occupation, but there was on 28th of October 1941 there was so-called Great Action, when all the prisoners of the ghetto, and there were around 30,000 in the Kovna ghetto at the first stage, yeah, they were ordered to come next morning to the place. It is ironical, but the name of the place, Demokratu Aikšte Square, Democrat Square, okay, such a name. And then at 6 o'clock in the morning, they had to stand there, all of them. This doesn't matter. You are sick, you are invalid, or you are not able to go, all had to be there. In the morning, the German policemen and the local policemen, yeah, they checked the houses, and if somebody was found, he was shot on the spot. And there was made a selection. And a German officer, his name was Helmut Rauka. He was sitting, he made all this selection. He was sitting the whole day he worked hard on a tall chair, and he had a stick in his hand, and the stick showed to everybody where to go, or left or right, left, right.
Like Mengele.
It worked like a metronome in music, you know? Left, right, left, right. Okay. And in one day, 9,200 people were sent to death. Of them, 4,273 children. Wow. And you can guess who were the first candidates in that action. So-called non-productive Jews, right? Women, children, sick people, aged people, intelligentsia. In a word, people are not able to work physical work. And not after and not before there were not such a great action. That's such number of people sent in one day. They were sent by foot here to here. That's why it is called a great action. That was on 28-29 of October 1941. You will see there some pictures when we enter there. So it is a real massacre place. And they were shot not here. They even didn't enter here. There was a fence. You have seen when you stopped there, yeah? There were remnants of the fence. They were sent into the trench. There is such a trench. When we go out, we'll see it, yeah? And this was not for them even. Okay. So let's enter the museum and the exhibition, and we'll speak on this spot there.
The visitors, they would visit the prisoners. I mean, the forum was used as a prison.
Burns.
Right, so why did they do that?
To stop the stench and to make sure that those who were shot would really be down.
And then what did it do to kind of body?
No, they just left them there the next day. They brought them back.
This was another shooting.
What a pleasure.
You are right. We are in a feminine time. Now, against the Hebrew Dikduk, Chaverin is already not Chaverot. Yes, you have to say Chaverot veChaverin. That's right. Okay, so you see the map. And you see it was built, the Ninth Fort, finished building in 1911. This is the map of Kovno, and this is the old Russian map. You see written in Russian letters Kovno. Okay, this is the rivers. There are two rivers. Tomorrow you will see all that. Okay, and these are the forts around Kovno, and we are at this place. Now, this was built, this fortress is a real fortress, and as it was customary to build at that time, they had also a tunnels, okay, around. They didn't connect with the other forts, but they were around. They had two purposes for these tunnels. One, to escape from the siege, yeah, okay. And another was because there are tunnels, not only tunnels, but also cells. And big cells to put in the cannons. Cannons shoot, yeah? Okay, and defend, yeah. So the tunnels around here, they are here, somewhere here, like this, yeah? They are going 3 kilometers approximately around. And some branch goes quite far away. And this is important for one event that happened here in the 9th War. We will not go there. It is more, interesting for the children, for the school students, and so on. But you can. You hear? It goes far, far away. It goes first up, and then it goes some 10 meters deep, and so on. We will start the story here because there are different stories. Okay? There was an escape, we'll speak about it, and there were different actions, and what happened here. We'll start from this room. And, okay. Yeah. As I told you, that here in the 9th fort, over 50,000 people were perished, and not only Jews, and of them 30,000 Jews, and not only Jews from Kovno, and not only Jews from Lithuania, but also Jews from all over Europe. You will see there will be testimony about the French Jews. This is this room. There will be Jews from Berlin, Jews from Munich, and some other places.
Are those Jews in Savannah?
We'll speak about it also. So, as I told you, they were not even let here in. All was there in the field. But there was one case when about 900 Jews were brought here. And it was towards the end of the war, towards the end of the occupation here, in May 1944. One transport, a train, arrived to Kaunus. Seems that it missed the way or something like that, because it had to be sent to Auschwitz, but it came here. And in this train there were about 900 prisoners of the labor camp Drancy near Paris. There was a transit camp, transit lager, okay, in Drancy. There were different prisoners in this camp. Not only French Jews, but there were from Poland, Hungary, Turkey, Algeria, and so on. And they were brought here. And that was the only case when they were put inside. And these people understood that this is their last station. And that is why on here, on this wall, some of them carved their names. Here you see, this is the way, this is the map. So this train made, instead of going to Auschwitz, it continued here, and then it arrived to Poland. Half of them were shot dead here in Kovno in 1994, and half of them continued for Estonia, Klolga labor camp, but also were buried here. So here you see some of the names. You see here some of the names. Let's do that all people should see. Here, for example, this one, Jules Hershkovitz, you see? 8th of May 1944, or 18th of May 1944, from Monaco via Drancy to Kaunus. Kaunus, it is Kovno in Lithuania. Yeah?
Paris.
Paris and Kaunus, yes. Okay. He was from Monaco and through Drancy, Paris. Or for example here, Max Stern, you see, Max Stern, Paris, the same day, May 18, 1944. Limoges, who is that? Wexler, or somewhere, Emil Bloch, Jerusalemsky, this is his last name, Jerusalemsky. Okay, here, somebody reads French? No? Okay, so this is read in French. Nous sommes 900 Français. We are 900 French people, okay, from France. So this was their last way, and this was their last stop in this world. And this transport was called transport number 73, and here are the names of that 900 people. That is why you see the French flag here. And this room is an example how this place is a good example, maybe or could be or must be arranged the commemoration of those people. You see, they made a huge work. Those who arranged this exposition here, they made a huge work because they collected all the information about those people and even their pictures before the war when they were alive. Not all of them they managed to find here. But you can see here, for example, you see France, Iran is Germany, Ukraine, Poland, Ukraine, Moldavia, Hungary there was, Romania, and so on. Who initiated this exhibition? Of course, their ancestors or relatives. And also, have you heard about Serge Klarsfeld? Yes. Serge Klarsfeld and his wife, Beata, she's not Jewish, yeah? Okay? They were the hunters after the Nazi criminals. They found that the butcher from
Lyon.
No, the butcher
Lyon.
from Lyon. What's his name? Klaus Barbie. Klaus Barbie. Yeah. So that's them who found. They also initiated and contributed to this exhibition. So it is really a very good example how to commemorate. And here are, you see, personal. For example, let's take this. Okay, Itzhak Abramovich. Itzhak Isaac Abramovich, born in Romania. Yeah, and he came to Paris. He was a violinist. Okay, this is before in that not occupied part of Paris, of France, and then they were given to the Nazi rule. Yes, yeah, okay. In Nice, I think.
Yes.
Nice, yeah. Okay, so this is one of the stories here. Okay, let's go further. Are you ready to go? Okay, come on. We go to the left. These are stoves, but not for the prisoners. It is for the guards. For the guards. Don't worry. It was not for them. Okay, here, this is the solitary confinement that was used before the war, but also by the Germans. Yeah? It was called, ironically, the health resort cell. please come here. So this room tells us about the very, very unique event that happened here. You see, the ninth fort was famous, or maybe we must say infamous, that it was not possible to escape from here. But nevertheless, there was one case. And it was in 1943. I already mentioned in Riga, when we were in Rumbula, that there was a order of Himmler, head of SS, at the end, at the second half of 1943, to dig out the bodies and to burn them. You remember? Okay. So the same was here. And again, who will do this dirty work? The same Jews. The same Jews. Sonderkommando. Okay, they had to do that. Not only Jews were, but Jews were the most of this Sonderkommando. There were 64 people. They had to do that. There were several Russian prisoners of war, some Russians and so on, but most of them were Jewish. And of course, it is a terrible work. They had to dig out the bodies. One of them was so-called dentist. He had to check the gold crowns. Yeah? Okay. There are terrible stories about it. We will not get into the details. But it is a terrible. And they were aware what will happen to them when they finish that work. They are real eyewitnesses, right? They even know how many corpses they have burned. Okay. So they were looking for a way how to escape from here. And they couldn't. They tried to forge somewhere a key from some gate. Nothing helped. And you know, sometimes what helps is just a case, in case, okay, and just an occasion. One of them, one day, he was sick, and he couldn't go out for the work. So when they went out, he stayed here. Now, you feel here, it is humid here, right? So the Germans used to open the door or the gate to the tunnels to ventilate here all the rooms. Yeah? And he secretly entered the tunnel and continued walking. And he is walking. It's already dark, nothing to see. And it seems that he lost his way. And suddenly he sees light from the top. Okay, he succeeded to climb on, and he got out. And he found himself, he understood that he is outside this ninth fort. He understood that the Germans don't know about this hole. What did he do? Yes, he somehow camouflated this hole. He came back, not escaped, came back and told his friends. What did he find? And now was clear there is a way. But, one, how to enter, because when they were back here, it was already locked. So how to enter the tunnels? And another question is, when to do that? So, as I told you, they tried to make keys and so on. This nothing helped. But then they found that there is another door, another gate, okay, always locked. But it is a side. And we will go there and you will see how did they manage to do that. And what time, what day did they choose? Christmas. Exactly. December 25th, okay, 1943. Well, you know, drunk and so on. Oh, okay, this is a good. Okay, and they really succeeded to escape. Not all of them, unfortunately. Of 64, only 22 succeeded to escape because Germans, they discovered this escape very, very fast and started to persecute them, and some of them were shot, some of them were captured, but 22 of 64, it's a lot, okay, succeeded to escape, and they joined the partisans. So these escapers. So they survived the war, all of them, of these 22. And you can see here, I always say that the dry statistics sometimes also can tell the whole story. Here you see, sorry, can I? Here you see, this is the list. 64, this is their age, so you can see 18 years old, but also 58 years old, different. This is where they are coming from. So some of them, Lithuanians here, Kaunus a lot, yeah? But there is Leningrad, that today is St. Petersburg, because there were also war prisoners, Russian war prisoners, no, from the Red Army and so on, and their profession, who they are. Yeah, yes, a rabbi also. Okay, teacher, but also watchmaker and farmer and so on, shoemakers and so on. Not all of them Jewish, for example, where they are here. 3 brothers Russians who were here, these ones, but they are from Lithuania, but Russians. So they escaped, and here on that side of the room, you can see their pictures already after the war. This, how it is called? Leather. The leather, yes. They couldn't take a real leather, so because they had, to roll it and to have it here. This is of the real ones. And some of the people I was acquainted personally to those two I knew and so on. Many of them moved to Israel.
Are they still alive?
Already no. This here, he was the leader. Alex Feitelson, he was the leader. He lived in Netanya, and he passed away some 8 or 9 years ago. But I had an honor to guide Israeli school student group, and he was Ish Ed. He was the witness, and he told us the story here and so on. That's it. These barrels were used, this is of oil or solar, how do you say? Solar?
Solar.
Yeah. This was, maybe they were sent from US. It was the Lend-Lease support from the United States for the Russians, yeah? So maybe it was, yes, these buckets, barrels, they were used to burn the bodies. Wow. Yes. Okay, let's go further. This drill they used and you can already guess how did they go through the other.
What's this one?
Here they
It's a double, I don't know, it's a passage that way and that way.
Okay, wait for a minute. You can meanwhile look here.
Ruled by the German and Austrian gods in winter 1943. They guarded Fox-burners who worked off exploitation sites.
Kovno, in March 42, in April. זה נכון, אבל לא, כל הסיפור פה זה בעצם
German and Austrian guards. Kaunus.
So, as I told you, that the Germans occupied Kovno on, actually it was so, that the German tanks crossed Kovno on June 25. And the Soviets, of course, already escaped. So for 2 days, and the Harrison didn't arrive yet, the Harrison of Kovno. Harrison?
Garrison.
Harrison. No, Harrison. Garrison.
Garrison.
Yeah. Heil Matzav. How do you say in English? Heil Matzav. No, Mapito. No. Heil Matzav, it is when the military power in the city, how it's called? Commandant. Garrison. Not Harrison, but Garrison. Sorry. Excuse my French. Okay. So for 2 days, city was left without any power, without any authority. So you understand what a situation is this, yeah? All the criminals and so on, and that was the pogroms, the Jewish pogroms that were in these 2 days in Kovno. One of them, the most known or infamous, Lietukis pogrom, okay, in the center of the city when 670, we don't know exactly the figure, yeah? Between 70 and 80 Jews were killed cruelly. Okay, here, this is near the garages. It was the garage affair. That's the courtyard of the garage. Okay, and one of them was wounded, and you see he wrote by blood, his blood, Eden, Nekome, Jews, revenge. Well, so this map, I always say that the maps are very, very good because they demonstrate well, they give an idea how it was. This is that area, occupied area by the Nazis. Here it is already Moscow, and so the front line was quite close to Moscow. Yeah, and this is Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Belarus, Ukraine. These are the Einsatzgruppen. Einsatz, Hashmada, okay? Extermination. A, B, C, and D. A was for the Baltic region, for the Baltic states. Now here, you see different pictures. These are from that place. These from the ghetto. These are from the ghetto. This bridge was built. I'll show you tomorrow. We will show you tomorrow where this bridge was on the main street, over the main street of the ghetto, and so on. All these pictures. What do you think? Who took these pictures?
The Germans.
No, you have a mistake. No.
Lithuania.
One Jewish prisoner of the ghetto, he was a professional photographer. His name was George Hirsch Kadushin. He had a camera. Of course, it was terribly dangerous to have a camera. For radio set, people were shot on the spot immediately. But he was brave and he made secret. And what is important, he had films. And he made he took the pictures. And he has hidden the films in one dry well. And imagine that he survived the war and he came after the war and he found this well and he found there these films. That is why we have, and this is very important because it is documentary evidence. This is very, very
It's a similar
important.
story from the Lodger Ghetto. It was a
Yes,
photographer.
right.
He buried it, and then after the
You
war,
can
he
see
came
him
back.
even here. Here there is a picture of him. Yeah, that's him. And also I would like to show you. Yeah, he emigrated to the United States after the war. I want to show you this person, outstanding, to be a head of the Judenrat, okay? It was a terrible role. And many of them, even they, as we will speak in Vilna about Yaakov Gens, okay? Even they tried to do something, okay? It was a terrible. There were the real sadists, or there were, different people are different. But he was a generous person. He was a doctor before the war. That's him with his crew in the Jewish hospital. And he had very great authority. And even Germans paid respect to him because sometimes they need his help as a doctor because he was an excellent doctor. And he asked the Germans, he couldn't do too much, of course, that's clear. But he demanded at least to know where people do disappear. He died, not killed, he died in Dachau concentration camp at the end of the war. He was already not young, and he died there. Okay, a bit further.
Just before everybody moves on, you remember that we've spoken a few times, and I mentioned it in Kaidan as well, about the young Zionist movements that were created in the late 19th century, early 20th century. Now, if you have a look in the front over here, there's a newspaper called Volk und Land, which means people and land. And it says at the bottom over here, Merkaz Mizrahi in Lita. This is the Mizrahi newspaper, and if you look closely at the top, it says, in inverted commas, Eretz Israel, La'am Israel, Al Pi Torat Israel, which is B'nai Akiva. So this is the origins, and this is where it started in a Yiddish newspaper in the early 20s. This is 1929. You can come and have a look. Volk und Land.
Yeah. Religious life. Okay. Let's come here. More pictures from the ghetto, from that period. Jewish police, that in the ghetto was Jewish police. And not all of them were real capo as there is some stereotype that if he was a policeman, a Jewish policeman in the ghetto, okay? And Rabbi Oshri, you mentioned Rabbi Oshri, right?
Yeah.
That's him, he's young here. That rabbi that wrote a big book, Annihilation of the Lithuanian Jewry, he was prisoner of this ghetto. Okay? And he describes all these problems. Okay, how to eat, for example, or is it possible to send a child to a Christian family, and so on? These are, my mind, Shelot without Shuvot. Okay. So,
if I could just mention
yeah, of course.
Here, just to bring in, there was physical resistance in the Holocaust, but there weren't very many. There was, I think, an uprising in Baviera, if I remember correctly. There was an uprising, as we know, in Warsaw that was led by Mordechai Milevich, who was I think about 23 at the time. And there were small ones. There was also the resistance that you mentioned earlier of the Greek Jews, the Sonderkommandos in Auschwitz. Sobibor was the one that I was thinking of. Right. And so that has been glorified, and to a degree it was also the kind of easier to sell in the secular Israeli setting, where we become used to a military and uprisings and that kind of thing, which is correct. But that's one focus. There's another focus, and Julik has referred to it now, and that was spiritual resistance in the Holocaust, where people said that despite the circumstances that I'm in, I'm a Jew and I will die a Jew, and I will be, and this is an incredible thing, I will be as meticulous in my observance of my mitzvot, and my belief in Hashem will be as meticulous as it ever was before, no matter what my circumstance. There are hundreds of examples that we can give. One example is that there was a man in I think it was in Auschwitz, that had a pair of tefillin, and he would allow somebody to put on the tefillin if they gave him some of their bread. And people say, what a terrible guy. That to make out, so that somebody else can do a mitzvah of tefillin, that he took some of their bread. And they said, but what about looking at it differently? What kind of human being will give up a meager piece of bread to do the mitzvah of tefillin? It's the way you look at it. Another beautiful story to talk about spiritual resistance is that one of the Shailot V'Tshuvot that Yurik mentioned just now was a chosid that came to Ephraim Oshri, Ephraim Tzadik Livrocha, who, as you heard, was the Roch in the Kovno ghetto, and I've got some of the Shailot that took at the time. He was asked the following question by chosid. The chosid said to him, my teeth had been kicked out by a Nazi guard because I was trying to steal potatoes outside the ghetto to bring them into the ghetto to feed my family. My teeth had been kicked out. Pesach is tonight. And we managed to make secretly some matzahs for Pesach. I can't chew the matzah because my teeth have been kicked out. I'm a chosid, and we don't eat gebrochs on Pesach. Gebrochs means that we don't put matzah together with any liquid in case there's a hashash that it might become from it. According to the non-Hasidim, we don't find it a problem once it's made with matzah. And his shaila was, can I, for purposes of fulfilling the mitzvah tonight, soak my matzah in order to fulfill the mitzvah of matzah? And of course, Rabbi, she said, there's no question that you can. That's the kind of shaila that he was being asked. Not why me, not where's Hashem, not is it important to keep the mitzvah of Pesach, but I've been keeping a chumrah and I'm not going to deviate from it unless the Lord gives me a sign. That was part of the spiritual resistance.
I will only add that we will have a brilliant example of a spiritual resistance, and will stand in Vilna near the building of the former ghetto theater.
And another question that was asked was, can I say Kaddish for a non-Jew that saved my life? What did he answer? Yes.
Here, you see on your left here, it is an example of a room in the ghetto. So, first glance, not so bad, right? Not so bad. But do technical thing. Put here 10 people, okay? And you will have another picture. Now, the bad side of this room, it is very hard to speak because the children, those that were perished here in this, there was a children action, and there were many other actions, and I told you that in the great action, 4,273 children were killed, and so on. So, if you don't mind, I won't speak about this. It's too hard. Well, let's here. This is the great action. You see, October 28, 29. I had some 15 years ago a lady, they were still alive, that was in the great action. And that selection, was a good sign. But her mother and her Bobbe and somebody else were sent to the left. And she wanted to be with her family. And she already moved to that side, and somebody stopped her by the shoulders and told her, Mishugina, don't go there. And so she stayed alive. She told us the story, how was this, all this? And she told us, and this picture shows this, that the winter in 1941 was very early and very cold, severe winter was. Okay. And on October 28, the first snow fell. Okay. That's what you see, why it is white. And they are already going here to this ninth fort. Okay, well, here, well, look at the pictures, but we will not stay here too long. The only thing I would like here to say, here, this is also important. Organizers and executioners of the massacre in Lithuania. So these are the Germans, the commissar, another commissioner, and so on. And they are Lithuanian collaborators. And you know, especially for last year, this year, okay, a lot of, you know, how Putin is terrible, how Russians are terrible, and so on and so on. But let's look on another side. You remember the Nuremberg trial? Yes, the most terrible criminals were hanged or shot. But those who were sentenced to 20 years, 25 years and so on, when did they get out of the prison?
4 or 5 years later.
4 years later. And in the Soviet Union, it was finished Adasov till the end. And these are 1962. I remember that. I was 16 years old already. There was a trial on these Nazi criminals, and they are local collaborators. And you see, these are their names. And what is at the end? Were sentenced to death. And they got that death sentence. So actually, at least I see that the justice came to the right point.
So how come we don't know about the Nuremberg?
Hmm?
We weren't ever taught about the trial in Russia.
There were. Here, you see. Yeah. Okay, we go. Gerai, su gitara mums kaip tik nereikia, kadangi mes rytoj einame su gitara, mes tik čia dar trupučiuką. Ačiū labai. Ačiū labai. Okay, you know, this we will skip. We'll go upstairs because they're already waiting for.
Careful, watch the step here. Yeah.
Moving along. Was this the temperature of the place?
No.
Time? Is it air conditioned?
When what?
Is this air conditioned or is it?
Air conditioning here.
Essentially, like, or was it as cold? Is my question. Was it as cold in here then? Always.
Of course. No, it works. You know what is thermostat?
Yeah.
It works like thermostat. In winter, it is warmer than outside. In summer, it is cold. because the walls are thick.
They retain the heat and retain the cold.
Yeah.
So when it's cold, the cold stays in the walls.
Yeah.
And when it's hot, the heat stays in the walls. So that you feel it.
Okay, so here you see this is that other gate, that other door. When they found this door, they couldn't open it with the key. So you remember that drill there? Yes. So they drilled here. You see there is like a patch.
Yeah.
They drilled here the holes. Of course, not in one day. It took time, you know. It is a hand drill. And not to raise suspicion, they closed these holes with, you know, of bread and sand. They made something a mixture such, yeah, to close it. Okay, and on December 25, 1943, they opened it and they got out of there to the tunnel, and there they already knew where to go. So you see, it is this one. Yeah? They were not fed, right? Of course, they couldn't be fed. For that meals they used to get. So I always say that this is one more example of the Jewish bravery. Not you know, there was some, after the war, some such a stereotype that how could be that the Jews went as sheep to the slaughter? But not all of them went as sheep to the slaughter. Okay. So that's it.
Is that a mistake, the 64?
Sorry?
The 64 prisoners?
Some were killed
Yeah,
along the way.
Yeah.
Oh, they,
No, they started 64, but succeeded to escape really 22.
What exactly is on the other side of this door?
They are the
It
tunnels.
just leads to another tunnel.
Yes. It goes here around.
But it's up high, on the second floor, so like, at some point did they jump down?
Yeah, no, it is like here.
No, I know this is level, we're on the second floor, they came up to get here.
We're in the hill. We're in the hill.
The hill, okay.
Yeah,
That's
the hill,
yeah.
Okay, we go.
You have to remember where it is.
We go upstairs, few steps. No, we go tomorrow. Here it is, by the way, close. It's on the repair. Upstairs here. This is solitary confinement. One more. It's called the concrete set, really, like this. Concrete without any So what's the step? We will leave here. Tomorrow we'll visit the Sugihara house and speak there, so we'll speak today about Sugihara. Yes, he resided in Kovno. But we must remember those people who saved Jews, those really generous people and brave people. You know, we spoke yesterday already about the righteous Gentile. In Lithuania is on the first place, relatively, of course, proportionally, yeah, by the number of the Yad Vashem Hasidei Umot HaOlam, over 440. Not in the absolute figures the Poland, but Lithuania is proportionally on the first place.
wow.
Yes, yeah. I will not speak about all of them here, of course. Maybe 1, 2, 3, not more. This lady, she was Lithuanian Gentile, right? a journalist, she saved Sofia bin Kenya, her name, Sofia bin Kenya. She saved mostly Jewish women with the children. And you know, it was terribly dangerous. Not only for her, but for her family. So her family also, that's her husband, and that's her daughter, and that's her son-in-law. So all of them, they got because they helped. All of them, they took part in this rescuing the Jews. She not only saved these people, but she also organized a chain of saving people. Because, you know, to hold in the same place people was very dangerous, especially children. Children are children. Okay? So she organized Christian women that they were, relocating them from one house to another and so on. And the last thing what she did, we didn't speak yet about the Soviet period, the Soviet anti-Semitism and so on, but I'll tell you now already, not the whole story, but that Soviet regime in some sense was anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic. And the Jewish issue was a taboo in the Soviet press, in the Soviet, public opinion, and so on. It was not Soviet people. They speak about the Soviet people that suffered from the Nazis. That's it. But she wrote a book about the rescuers of the Jews. But you cannot speak about the rescuers of the Jews without saying what did they do, whom did they save, and so on, right? So actually it was the first in the Soviet period, the first evidence what the Jews suffered during the war, how the Jews were killed or how they were saved. And the book that she published, unfortunately, it is only in Lithuanian language. It is called Fighters Without Arms. Actually, we can say it continues this issue of the spiritual resistance also. Okay? So here, he is one of the first of the Hasidei Umot Olam, righteous Gentile of Yad Vashem, that she is in Jerusalem in 1968. Okay? I knew her personally. One of the most generous and most beautiful people I met in my life. Really so. Another. Yes, already some 30 years. You see, she was in her mid-30s during the war. Another person that I would like to say a few words about, it is this, Dr. Tatras Boblis. Dr. Tatras Boblis was a medical doctor, and also he was a head of the orphanage. It is, what's in English? Nursery orphanage. Okay? Beit Yatomim Peutot. Okay? That's the building. It's not far from here, from the ghetto. And Jewish women, feeling what is going on, even before the children's action, okay, used to bring their babies here to that orphanage. And this orphanage was not Jewish, for the Gentiles, for general. You see here there is such steps, and even sometimes not to enter there, to leave here the baby and go away. And for example, this is this nice girl. Okay? She was saved by Dr. Boblis, and these are his colleagues, and these are the children, and so on. His fate. He died in 1973, and it is a sad story. There was a delegation of the medical doctors from Lithuania that went to Kiev in Ukraine, okay, for the all-Soviet Union conference of the pediatric doctors, okay, and the plane crashed, and all of them, and he was also there. Such a such a sad setting. A Lithuanian singer, famous Lithuanian tenor, Kipras Petrauskas, he saved this girl, Dana Pomerans. That's her now. She is a known violinist in the United States. And so on and so on. So you see, she was a journalist, he was a doctor and so on, he was a singer. But sometimes, I'll show you some pictures. Look at this. Look at this man, okay? You see, he is not very intellectual, we can see it. He's a farmer. What we say, a poya. Sometimes, saying a poya. What is poya in Yiddish? A peasant. No, not a goy. A peasant, actually. Bauer. It is Bauer in German, okay? Okay. But that's how we call them. That's how we call them, okay? So not very intellectual, not very educated and so on, but he saved Jews. So it depends not on your, level of your education, so it depends on your heart. Yeah, yes. So, and I'll finish by that citing from the Talmud, whoever saves my life is as though he has saved the entire world. Oh, this world is evil. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we finished here. We'll continue this subject tomorrow in Sugihara House, who saved many Jews, okay? But this is a unique and special story. We go this way. We go to the right, and downstairs by the staircase. Kovno, and he was here in the ghetto, survived the Holocaust, and moved to Paris. And his artworks are very known. Some of them are in Venice, in the Jewish quarter, and he made this gift to his native city Kovno. You see, these are the scenes of the ghetto. Okay, let's go now. We'll go to see the monument. That huge monument.
You see that plot to the fort? See?
Ja.
Nee, it says, I need to...
Okay.